Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Tech Talk here in the Nerdly space. I'm your host, Colleen McCartney, and we are here today with our special guest, Evolve Benton. Uh, Evolve has a blueprint for teaching you how to turn your voice into wealth, getting paid speaking opportunities, which I know for a lot of you coaches and a lot of you marketers out there, that is like the ideal situation, right?
Yes.
So Evolve, tell us a little bit like what got you into this in the first place?
Yeah, great question. So I actually am from Los Angeles, California, born and raised. And after college, I went back to Los Angeles from New Orleans. And when I got there, I was staying in my rent controlled apartment with amazing rent, right? I think it was like $782, y'all, for a 2 bedroom. And I did something that most people do when they get a little bit older. I fell in love with an amazing person, and that person was moving to the Bay Area. So I followed her for love. And when I got to the Bay Area, I realized that rent wasn't going to be 782. So so I started looking for side gigs, right? And the reason I was looking for side gigs was once we started paying our rent with my salary that I was working in higher education. I literally had enough to buy us a bacon sandwich, and not either both of us one. We had to split one. That's how poor I was because of the arrangement with rent. So I said, okay, I need a side gig. I looked into DoorDash, right, Uber, and then someone asked me to speak on a panel, and it's amazing Black woman about my experience as an LGBT person in corporate. And I said, sure. And she said, how much do you charge? Right. And I said, well, $500. I don't know why. Like that's like the standard price that I think most speakers start off at. And she did something that was beautiful. And I'm so thankful to her still to this moment. She said, charge more, give me more. The budget is higher. So at that time, I was getting paid $3,000 a month at my 9 to 5. And I said, well, if I can make a month in 45 minutes, that would be amazing. So I asked for 3,000. She said yes. And I said, oh, this is my new side gig. So that's how I got into paid speaking. Before then, I was a poet. I was sharing my story through various venues, but I didn't realize that you could get paid for it. I was just using it as an art.
That's amazing. Amazing. And so tell us how you went from well, no, we just went over how you went from leadership to 5-figure speaking. That's I mean, it's so interesting, like because everyone has that start point, right? And it's a journey from there. And we always forget that start point doesn't have to be it's not this massive like overnight thing. It's hey, this is let me start developing in this direction, right?
Yeah.
And
you have to do time for the opportunity, right? Like I think what you're speaking about is even before then, that was like my first paid opportunity. But before then, I was speaking as a poet. I was speaking at development events in my graduate school so that they could raise money. So I was using my voice. So when it came the opportunity for me to sit on this panel to share, I was ready for it. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't scared because I had so much preparation. I just needed to learn the game around business. And there's so much that goes into practice. I don't think that a lot of folks spend enough time in practice. I often tell my clients we're in like a microwave society where everybody just wants to be able to put it in and press that 30-second button. And I don't believe in that. I think it takes years to usually prep. And if you're prepared for the opportunity, that's when you get the big bags.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah. And so for someone who's out there who's like, I want to get into speaking, right? It's always this big, like, it's the idea of speaking. But I think a lot of people don't realize it's all those steps. It's actually, making sure you know what you're saying, practicing how you're going to deliver it. Because it's, especially if you're in a live speaking event, it's not just, can you read the words that you have written down, right? So how do you keep like when you work with your clients, how do they keep engaging with the audience? Like what are something you would say like if someone is new to speaking?
I think if someone's new to speaking, honestly, the best thing that you can do is to get in a space where you're doing it often. So I had the honor to work in higher education, and shouts out to all my folks watching who've worked in higher ed as administrators, which means that most of my job was speaking to different people, right? Whether that was students, staff, faculty, community members. And because of the nature of our work, things happen all the time. Like, let's think about right now what's happening in the administration. People are losing funding, research departments are losing, so many different things are happening. So you have to be prepared as an assistant director or a director to give a statement often to all these different constituents. And the way that I'm going to talk to a faculty member is totally different than I'm going to talk to a student. So I often ground my clients in the fact that most of them probably have already been public speaking. They just don't see it that way because it's probably been their job, or maybe they're the one who speaks to their family quite often, or maybe it's to their children, but you have the skill set. You just need more practice for the audience that you're going to speak in front of. And to get that practice, there's so many cool programs, like there's Toastmasters, there's TED Talks, like there's spaces where you can prepare. But I think honestly, creating your own stage has been really powerful for me and many of my clients. That's why I love StreamYard and spaces like this, where you can go live on Facebook or go live on your YouTube channel, right? And just share and get more comfortable sharing with an audience. So there's really no excuse now. Back in the day, you used to have to go to a meeting like in some random community college for Toastmasters. Now you honestly can create your own stage, and the audience will give you feedback to let you know how you're doing. Now, you asked, how do you keep the audience engaged? And I think that that's about being a powerful storyteller and understanding the ebbs and flow of storytelling. So even when I shared you the story, right, about my positionality in LA and moving to the Bay Area, I wanted it to feel like it was a connection with the audience. People can always understand how it feels to fall in love. Like, oh yeah, I fell in love before. And then moving, oh goodness. And then, oh, the price of rent, right? So I'm normalizing myself for the audience so that they can experience with me. Then I take them to my expertise and say, hey, I got paid $3,000 for 45 minutes. If I would have led with that story, a lot of people would have felt alienated. They would have been like, what? I could never do that. But I wanted to bring it to a point where we could feel connected and then shift to the part about my credibility.
That's so interesting. Like, especially as a neurodivergent person, like my brain just like, I'm like, oh no, this piece of the story, this piece of the story. And I'm like, oh yeah, look, there's an actual order of operations here. Look at that. Right. So and just because you are engaging with the audience, you know what you're saying, right? I know one thing some people will not always follow through with is having a talk that actually sells, like getting to a point, right? Or if you're lost in like sharing and talking, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm actually supposed to be here to sell you something. Wait a minute. Let's get back to that point.
Yeah, you know, I think selling from the stage is a different skill than being an amazing speaker, right? There's things that people do to sell from the stage that we call like anchoring, right? Like one is price anchoring, right? I see people do this all the time. They'll start off an engagement. They'll be like, you know what? If you were here in my paid program, you would be paying $20,000 to be here. So I want you to act like you're here for $20,000. Now they're framing it and pricing it, but then by the end of that masterclass or space, they're like, actually, you can work with me for today for $10,000, right? So they've already price anchored. You're in the space. You're like thinking, okay, I'm $20,000 in. Let me go on and get this information. But then at the end, you're like, oh, I'm getting a deal for this opportunity. And there's that urgency. Let me sign up today, right? So, but we don't want to lose the aspect of the actual curriculum and the storytelling. Where I see people make mistakes when it comes to selling from the stage is not giving the audience what they promised. If you gave them a bunch of objectives that you said that they were going to learn, give them that tea, give them that information. Don't hold out on them. And if they feel like you're over delivering, your aligned clients will sign up and want to work with you. And if you're not having those conversions, it might just be that you're not bringing the right people in the room, right? There's so much that goes into that aspect. And I think that it goes back to practice. People give up. Last year, I did 8 5-day challenges once a month for 8 months to get really good at selling from the stage. If I would have gave up at month 3, I wouldn't have been able to see my progress by the end or to see my conversion rates go up, because it takes time and it takes practice for you to see what's actually working, who are the people in the room, and what stories are really resonating with your audience.
That's so true, because especially in my journey in tech, right? I've learned when I was told I was speaking to the wrong people, I was serving the wrong people, I didn't understand what that meant. I did not understand that meant like, no, I have something really great, but the people who really want it are the people over in corner 3, right? Yep. And it's really interesting because you could think that you're speaking to the right people, but if they're not problem aware, let alone in a place to be ready to be solution aware, then you could just even put them into total overwhelm, or just like, I'm not even there. I don't know what you're talking about. You made 5K for 45 minutes. You were way far beyond where I'm at, right? So it goes back to like where you're saying is make that connection and the making sure that you're speaking to the right people. Yeah. That's so cool. I love how everything you said, I'm like, you know, that makes perfect sense. And it's like, it's some simple stuff, but when you put it all together, it creates this really dynamic experience for the audience. And that's like what I love about how every time I learn more about what you do and how you work with people, it really warms my heart because like on the other side with tech, it's for us, it's all about mapping out that journey. Right. And like, I know you take such care with your clients and making sure they're mapping out, okay, well, it's not just about getting the gig, right? It's making sure that you have all your bits and pieces. Like if someone does want to buy from the stage, from the audience, right? How are we getting them and making sure that you're having all your bits and bobs together, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So when someone's, let's talk about pricing, right? That is always a thing that people are, and myself in particular, I'm never good with pricing because it's such a dissonance of what it takes me to deliver versus the value received and what it took to get me to where I'm at.
Yeah. So, you know, pricing is something that I think is interesting because I find that pricing and our relationship to money and scarcity are so like aligned. I used to really struggle with pricing, right? Like if I would have an offer or a speaking engagement and someone said no, then instantly I would think to myself, my price is too high. And then I started working with someone and they were like, actually, you're alienating people and your price is probably too low. Because if you're not charging enough and they know that this project is going to take 3 or 4 months and you're saying it's only going to take 3 weeks and you're going to charge half the cost, they're going to know that you're not problem or solution aware and they're not going to trust you. So I think it's important for us to think about the vehicles that we want to drive when it comes to being a speaker. I work with folks who are like hosts, right? The vehicle that they're providing is totally different than someone who's a facilitator of a workshop. And what it takes to host an event compared to what it takes to facilitate a half-day workshop with an executive group is completely different. It's a different skill set, but it's different pricing. So I like to look at it as how much do I want to make and what type of capacity do I have for that work? So I'll say with a client, hey, if you want to make $100,000 a year and you know that you only can speak once a month, then the lowest that you can really go is $10,000 in order for you to meet that goal and still take off of the holidays. So now that we know how much we want to make, let's build out the offer and actually get in the vehicle that's going to get us there. Instead of throwing paint against the wall and saying, I want to be a motivational speaker like Eric Thomas or someone else and make $30,000 when people might not even pay you that amount for that opportunity. So we have to align our offer and our expectations and our capacity. And that's when we can come up with our price. And then we know our bottom. We know where we're at. We know if we take that $1,500 opportunity, yes, we're out of scope, but we're going to have to do a lot more of those to actually meet our goal. So we can be a little bit more realistic. Because I think people, like I was talking to a client the other day, Colleen, and she wants to do this amazing project, but she wanted to charge people $400. And she said, you know, my gap, she's reading Profit First, an amazing book for other entrepreneurs who might want to get it. She said, my gap is about $3,200 a month. That's how much I need to meet. And I said, well, how many $400 opportunities do you have to sell in order to get there? She started doing the math. She said, oh, that's a lot. I said, exactly. Compared to one speaking engagement, that could be $3,000. So let's build that offer out. And then you can still do the $400 one when you can hire people that can actually support you to deliver that. And the price is probably going to have to go up for that offer as well.
I love that. You know, and one thing I definitely hear from folks, right, is they feel like they aren't ready, or maybe, you know, especially they don't feel like they're qualified enough, right?
Yeah.
Even though, like, I know full well talking to them, I'm like, you're actually quite the expert in your area of expertise, right? It's a lot of imposter syndrome, where like if you've never been on a stage, but you're an expert in your field, right? Like transitioning that, because I deal with a lot, like so many coaches, they're great. They'll do their lives. They'll be out there speaking, but transitioning that into an actual, like, oh, I'm actually getting paid for this.
Yeah.
Right. And it's such a mindset shift for so many folks.
Yeah, it's a big mindset shift, and it's a confidence booster for you to look at it. So I love AI, y'all. Colleen, I love what you teach us in the community around AI and how we can use it within Nerdly. One of the things I started to do with my clients is have these discovery interviews, right? Where we talk about, like, how'd you get into your industry? Like, when you were in college, like, tell me the stories, right? And people are sharing, like, yeah, I was one of the only people who did this, and then I got this degree, and right. And for them, they'll say, but that's not a big deal. I'll take that, and then I'll put it into ChatGPT or other AIs, and I'll say, what makes this person unique compared to others in their field? What are some things that they could charge double for because of their experience? And then I take that narrative and I give that to that client, and you should see their faces, the confidence that they build, the shift that comes, because they're actually able to see it from someone else, which is AI, how impactful the work that they've done has been. So what I find is sometimes we need to just get it all out, more than just on a resume and on piece of paper, our actual voices, and hear it given back to us so that we can see how powerful we are. Because most of the time it's confidence. It has nothing to do with pricing or anyone else. You for yourself have to know your worth. And the only way you'll know that sometimes is hearing it back in a different frame.
As a verbal processor, I mean, sometimes that hearing it, having it brought back to you, and also just like, saying it is super, super powerful. And if you do not have a close relationship with your Chat GPT, I don't know, folks. Like, I mean, like, turn that thing on voice mode. I'm having a full on. We're going deep. We're digging in, right? And that's such a great opportunity. Like, that's something so novel that, like, thinking, even what 1, 2, 3 years ago, having an interactive like conversation back about, like, hey, I'm trying to speak, like catching you on saying the ums or the, just getting yourself to have that practice so that it's like being able to go home and practice your instrument, right? You actually can have some real-time feedback. So when someone's working with a professional like you, they can actually go home and do their homework. You're like, look, I did my work. I showed up. I did it.
I tell my clients all the time, there's really no excuse now. Like, you have too many tools on being able to get this done. And instead of trying to become a speaker where you're getting your ums out, I think it's just about becoming a speaker that's relatable, because the ums are relatable, right? Like, when people hear people that are too polished, there's been studies that show those are the people that get the most sales resistance, right?
Really?
When you're using words that are like above often an 8th grade level, even in like very formal spaces, you will lose your audience and people will not connect with you as much.
Interesting.
So sometimes being more conversational, I'll even talk to ChatGPT about it. I'll be like, can we make this a little bit more conversational, a little bit more, connecting with the audience, a little bit more adaptive? And it helps a lot, because I have 3 degrees, y'all, for folks who don't know. So I could sometimes get in that higher education and in that educated bubble when I have to bring myself down to realize I'm talking to everyday humans that want to have an everyday conversation.
Yeah. That's always a challenge when you are in your zone of expertise, going full nerd. It's like, no, bring it back.
Yeah, but we not lose everyone.
Right? Oh my gosh. So what would you say is one of the, like, a big mistake that you see new speakers make when it comes to, I know we talked about pricing, but what about pitching themselves, or, what's something that you see people make it's a common error?
I think a common error is people believing that this is not a business. Right? So they think that because they're brilliant and they're a great speaker, everyone's going to find them on the internet and just like pay them because they're brilliant, when really you have to have a mechanism to do outreach and reach out to people so that every day more people know about your business. And it's not going to just come to you because you're brilliant. You will have some referrals and some opportunity, but often those opportunities aren't the ones that you necessarily want. They're probably not going to be the highest paid opportunities, and they're not going to get you in front of the audiences that know, like, and trust you. So one, that it's a business. And then I would say the second thing that I often see people make big mistakes with is not charging soon enough. A lot of folks will tell me I have to wait until I speak on, they make up a whole bunch of things. I have to wait until I speak to this type of group, at this type of conference, on this type of stage. And it's like, ask if people have a budget from the beginning, because organizations are trying to save money just like you're trying to make money. So if you're the speaker that just comes in and says, yes, I'll come and speak for free, and you never ask about a budget, you'll never really know. And when we think about relationships, if I speak at an organization once, I want to speak there 10 times, right? Like, so if I start this relationship speaking for free, how do I ever convert it to something that's actually paid? So I wish that I didn't wait so long to just at least ask, like, do you have a budget? Do you have professional development honorariums for speakers? When people would ask me, instead of just doing it for free to build some resume that honestly today no one really cares about. They're not like, oh, you spoke at all those places for free, now we want to pay you. That's not usually how it works.
That's I love that. Like, because it's not just about that one-time transaction, right? It's about building that long-term relationship, right? And that's what I'm always more focused on, the long-term relationship, because if this one isn't the greatest, but we're going to keep doing this over and over, then that's going to be super worth it. If I have to go through a little extra to then know that we're going to be in this on the long term, right? Mm-hmm. Especially if, you're out there and you're trying to sell something from the stage, right? And then theoretically, you're also then going to have affiliates or people giving testimonials the next time you go and do that same talk.
Yeah. Right? Collecting testimonials is probably another one that I would anchor on there. Like, we wait too long for that to collect them. So there is a powerful tool called, I don't know if you've seen it, Colleen. It's called Talkadot, and it's free. And folks can utilize it. And what it does is it gives you a QR code or a link, if you're on Zoom, that you can give your audience. It asks them how you did, gets feedback. They can give you written feedback, all of that. But then there's also questions that you can include in there that say, would you want to bring Colleen in to speak again? Or do you know someone who would pay Evolve to speak? So you walk away from speaking engagements with a list of leads. And what Talkadot is on the back end, it breaks it into warm leads, cold leads, and hot leads. So you know who to follow up with right away. I wish I would have started at least using some type of Survey Monkey, something before even Talkadot existed, I was speaking, to get those testimonials, because we do see that no matter what offer you're selling, whether it's speaking or even an online course, having more testimonials is one of the things that can push past some of those sales objections from folks who might not be ready. Them being able to see other people's experiences with you gives them that yes that makes them want to buy. So if you can, y'all, even if you're speaking for free, use Talkadot, ask for testimonials so that you can get that feedback. And Talkadot will feature your profile on their website. So when event organizers are looking for future speakers, you'll be listed there as well. So it's another way where you can get some traffic coming into your speaking business.
I love that. So, and speaking of, let's talk systems. Like, once someone books a gig or gets traction, right, how do they stay organized and scale beyond like a one-to-one booking?
Yeah, great question. So once you start to get paid opportunities, I often say we have to have a very strong follow-up process. Usually what people do is they get paid and then they're out, right? But for me, I get paid and I want to give that organizer or that planner a gift. So that's why I use Talkadot, because I can take a summary. I get all of that data and feedback. I can give them a summary of the experience. That will help the organizers or companies when they have their annual reviews, when they're talking to their supervisors about how much money they spent, they actually have data to share. And then I'll often say, hey, let's get on a call and talk about, how it went. I call it like, an action step call right after the speaking engagement. And I can say, hey, are you all going to do this event in the next quarter or so? I would love to come back if there's an opportunity. So then what does that do? That means I don't have to look for new work, right? Like I can continue to support and work with that organization. So if you can have a way for you to send that email automatically, right? An automatic trigger, as you probably would call it in Nerdly land, that sends this follow-up email. That's one way that you can do it. Having a really great CRM, which is another reason why I love Nerdly, right? Where you're able to keep notes about the client. Maybe a client will tell you, hey, you know, we don't have anything right now, but actually in January of 2026, we have something. Follow up with me. How do you not forget that follow-up? Having something in your CRM that says follow up with Jim on that date, that's going to ping you and then tell you to do that. And then I always think follow up in regards to show up is so important. People will sign up on your calendar like, hey, I want to work with you, whether it's me as a public speaking coach, a business development coach, or even a speaker. In order for them to show up for those appointments, I know that having those notifications on the back end are one of the things that make people show up. And even when people can't, at least they'll follow up and be like, hey, Evolve, something came up. But if I don't have something that's notifying them that the meeting is coming up, often they'll forget or I'll forget. And then next thing you know, that's money that's kind of slipped out the back door.
Yeah. And especially like when you're selling from a stage, right? Like one of the things, because I'm just a nerd about the whole journey because I just see it as like a video game and we're just mapping out, here's the quest line. Yep. Right. And people miss the mark on, well, you're on the stage, right? They've now bought the thing. You're still at an event, yep. Right? But then there's this whole transition, like making sure like these nurtures happen. Yep. And just because they opted in, but they didn't buy, there's so much more that can be done on the follow-up that, you know, that's also where like my entire world's from because I forget everything. So everything, I program everything because I want people to have these white glove experiences, right? Because even though, you know, I love my tech and I love my AI and automations so that I can be present with people, so that I can connect with them, which is
and
really
you could
great.
be at other events, right? Like doing things like I was seeing that a creator I follow, he's here in Atlanta because there's the podcast summit is coming up and I'm going to that event. His YouTube video that he schedules every week still came out this morning. The emails that he sends out every week about still came out, right? So often, y'all, when you're speaking from stages, you're traveling a lot. You're on planes. You're like in between. So you want your business to still be able to run and things not to stop just because you're on stage or because you're going to an event or because you're even going on vacation to take care of yourself. The business should be able to still run. And these automations that Colleen and other folks can set up in Nerdly, like it makes that process so much easier. But also it's something that you could look at and constantly make better, right? Like I love that you're like, let's look at it and see where the gaps are, where people are falling off and how we can even adjust the pipeline to make it even nurture our audience better.
I love it because I just love seeing the transformation people can make. Like when they actually connect with their audience and they get the right people and they're actually solving problems. I'm like, oh, look, humans humaning. This is so great. And I know you have a calculator for your audience.
Yes, I do. So for folks who would like it, one of the challenges that I see with most speakers is your price, right? We kind of talked about that today. So we have a fee calculator. And if you have a speaking engagement coming up or you're just dreaming about your idea opportunities, you can fill out that calculator and it'll ask you things like, is the event in person or is it virtual or is it hybrid? It'll ask you about emotional energy that you have to use because some of us are spending time speaking about topics that are really close to traumatic experiences. So how much emotional labor do you think you'll have to spend? Are you traveling for it? Do you have to catch a bus or a train? So it'll add all that up and give you a standard price. And then what I often will say, we want to double that price in negotiation. So let's say it gives you $5,000. We want to ask the event organizer for 10 because in order to win a negotiation, we ask for a little bit more and then we can always work our way down. It's hard to work your way up if you just ask for your baseline.
Oh, I love that. And also I love the word promotional. I'm keeping that. I'm like, that's right. That's correct. That is correct.
Yes.
But I love that Evolve. And I love seeing how when I see a business owner who truly cares about working with their clients, it just gets me really excited to see people connecting, and because there's so much power in the stories.
Yeah.
So much power in stories. It's just getting the speakers comfortable and confident enough to get out there and getting them in front of the right audience. And
exactly.
It can be, even the speaking itself can be a transformative experience for both the speaker and the audience, which is
most of the time it is, right? Because I still believe that the power of the griot, right, and the storyteller in our communities, like, you're setting spells out into the world, which is why when I work with clients on creating their signature talk, especially in the profitable speaker circle, I often tell people, this is a talk you want to be able to use for the next 3 to 5 years. And it's stories that you want to feel comfortable sharing, but also it's a spell. So we don't want to spend our signature talk on talking about scarcity, doubt, fear, anxiety. We want to talk about courage and confidence and love. If those are the things we're trying to bring into our life, that's what we want to speak about. Now, can we share the journey? Of course. But our resolution at the end of that story should be something that we feel really confident and good about, because imagine sharing a story over and over again that traumatizes you or makes you feel bad or sad. Like, what kind of person are you going to be after those speaking engagements? You might be paid, but you're going to be broken. So we want to make sure that we share hero stories. That's what's really important and powerful about this.
That's so cool. That's so cool. All right, folks, if you would like that calculator, comment profit, and we will get you connected with Evolve so that you can go on speaking for profits.
Yeah.
I love this. And seriously, if y'all are in the community, Evolve is there as well. Reach on out, connect with each other. This is, I love being able to put a spotlight on people making an actual impact on other people's lives. And it's just gets really exciting. So
definitely. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate you. And I love that you do these spaces quite often in the community. Thank you for your labor. Thank you for continuing to teach us and continue to create space for us to create more seamless processes in our business. I really appreciate you.
I try. I'm really excited. We got some really cool stuff coming out, and which I've learned to not release new things before I go out to Playa for 2 weeks. So we will not be releasing them until I get back in September. But I'm really excited for it. So thank you so much for coming out, and thank you all for tuning in, and we will catch you next time. Later, nerds.
Peace.